Most scholars agree that the New Testament wasn't even written in the order that we read it. And when you lay it out chronologically, the picture becomes a lot more clear. So Paul's letters were actually the earliest Christian writings that we have, from the mid-40s to the mid-60s AD. And these were circulating decades before any of the Gospels were ever written. And so Paul's writings kind of shaped the first generation church, while the eyewitnesses who were still alive were around and they could verify the testimonies given. And so all of Paul's writings came before the Gospels, and then the first Gospel that was like written or circulated is the Gospel of Mark, which is usually dated around 60 AD, late 60 AD. Some theologians vary on a year or two here or there, and that's fine. But anyway, Mark was the first gospel, and then Matthew and Luke actually used the Gospel of Mark as their narrative backbone, adding their own material, their own sources, and their own theological emphases. And then John's Gospel comes much later, often dated around 90 AD, and this is written decades after reflection and ministry and theological development within his community. But I think it's interesting to note that the book of Revelation was likely written much earlier than the Gospel of John or the epistles of John, and the book of Revelation was likely written around 60 AD, and then we have the book of the Gospel of John around 90, so about 30 years difference between writings. So when you step back, the New Testament becomes a story shaped first by the apostolic letters addressing real churches and real issues, and then by the earliest Gospels rooted in Peter's testimony, followed by the expanded accounts from Matthew and Luke and ultimately John. So I just think it's really interesting to look at the actual chronological layout of the New Testament. So I just wanted to share with you what I found out recently about it. So let me know if this helped you, and please feel free to share it with somebody else, and we'll talk later.